My beloved child, stop scrolling and remain here for this moment, because something has reached the edge of silence, and it can no longer be pushed back into the shadows. What you are about to hear was not placed before you by accident. There is a heart connected to yours that has been carrying words too heavy to hide, emotions too deep to dismiss, and a truth so powerful that it has begun to interrupt their sleep, their thoughts, and even the quiet moments when they pretend everything is fine. Your soulmate cannot hold it in any longer. Something within them is breaking open, and when you discover what they have been trying to contain, it may change the way you understand everything that has happened between you. Pause here, because the first thing heaven wants you to understand is that their silence was never empty. You may have looked at the distance between you and assumed there was nothing there. You may have interpreted their hesitation as indifference, their absence as forgetting, or their inability to speak as proof that you mattered less than you once believed. But silence can sometimes be the loudest place in the human heart. Behind their quietness, conversations were happening. Memories were returning. Questions were rising. And every time they tried to convince themselves that they had moved beyond what they felt for you, something unexpected pulled them back. It was not simply a memory of your face. It was not only the sound of your voice or the way you once made them feel understood. It was something deeper. They began to realize that your presence had changed them in ways they never admitted. You touched a place in them that had been guarded for years. You awakened emotions they had trained themselves not to trust. And now, after trying to bury those feelings beneath distractions, responsibilities, pride, and fear, they are discovering that what is real does not disappear simply because it is inconvenient. There is a reason this message found you now. Recently, your soulmate experienced a moment that shook the story they had been telling themselves. It may have appeared ordinary from the outside. Perhaps they were alone in a room, driving somewhere familiar, listening to a conversation, seeing two people together, or hearing words that reminded them of a choice they once avoided. But within that moment, something shifted. They saw the truth with a clarity they could no longer escape. They realized that the emotional distance they created did not bring peace. It only made your absence louder. And this is where the revelation begins to deepen. They have been comparing every new feeling to what they felt with you. They did not intend to do this. In fact, they may have resisted it. They may have told themselves that comparison was unfair, that the past should remain behind them, or that they needed to be practical. Yet the heart has its own way of revealing what the mind attempts to control. Every conversation that lacked depth reminded them of how naturally you understood what they could not explain. Every connection that felt forced reminded them of the ease they once felt around you. Every moment of emotional emptiness brought back the realization that what existed between you was not ordinary. Do not mistake this for a perfect story without pain. There were misunderstandings. There were moments when both of you may have acted from fear instead of love. There were words left unsaid and intentions interpreted through wounds. But your soulmate is beginning to see something they could not see before. They are realizing that the difficulties between you were not proof that the connection was false. Some of those difficulties were mirrors. They revealed fears, insecurities, and patterns that both of you needed to confront. For a long time, they blamed the intensity of the connection. It felt too powerful, too exposing, too difficult to manage. They were accustomed to relationships and conversations that allowed them to remain hidden. But with you, hiding became impossible. You noticed changes in their energy. You could sense when something was wrong even when they insisted they were fine. You saw behind their confidence. And although part of them longed to be known that deeply, another part became frightened. This fear created distance. Yet now the distance is revealing what closeness once concealed. They can finally see the value of what they pushed away. They remember the patience you offered when they were emotionally unavailable. They remember the small ways you showed concern. They remember moments you may have forgotten, moments when you gave them kindness without demanding recognition. And these memories are not returning gently. They are arriving with force, especially when the world becomes quiet. There was one particular memory that returned recently, and it affected them more deeply than they expected. It was a moment when you looked at them with sincerity, perhaps when they were struggling, doubting themselves, or pretending not to care. You said something simple. It may not have sounded extraordinary at the time. But your words made them feel seen. Now, when they remember that moment, they understand that very few people have ever offered them that kind of emotional safety. This realization shocked them. They began asking themselves questions they had avoided. Why did they pull away from the person who understood them? Why did they protect their pride more fiercely than the connection? Why did they allow outside opinions, old fears, or uncertainty to influence a bond that felt different from anything else? And the more they questioned themselves, the more uncomfortable the truth became. They did not stop caring. They only became better at hiding it. But the hiding is beginning to fail. Their emotions are appearing in unexpected ways. They may become unusually quiet when someone mentions love. They may feel restless at night without understanding why. Certain songs, places, dates, or ordinary objects suddenly remind them of you. They may open a message and think of what they wish they could say. They may start writing something, then delete it. They may imagine seeing you again and rehearse conversations that have not yet happened. This is not because they are weak. It is because truth eventually demands expression. Something inside them has reached its limit. You should know that your soulmate has recently spoken about you, though not in the way you might expect. They did not reveal everything. They were careful. Perhaps they mentioned you indirectly to a trusted person. Perhaps they asked a question while pretending it was about someone else. Perhaps they described the connection without using your name. But the person listening noticed something in their voice. They noticed the hesitation, the emotion, and the way your soulmate became more serious when speaking about the past. That person asked a question your soulmate was not prepared to answer. They asked, "Do you still love them?" The question created a silence that lasted longer than it should have. Your soulmate could have laughed it away. They could have denied it immediately. They could have changed the subject. But something happened in that pause. Their eyes lowered. Their breathing changed. And before they could construct the safe answer they usually gave, their emotions revealed what their words had been hiding. They did not say no. And that silence became a confession. But there is more. The person they were speaking with did not stop there. They reminded your soulmate that avoiding a feeling does not resolve it. They asked whether fear had made the decision instead of love. They asked whether your soulmate had truly given the connection a fair chance or whether they had escaped because it demanded honesty. These questions remained with them long after the conversation ended. That night, they could not settle. They replayed everything. They remembered the beginning, when the connection felt effortless and full of possibility. They remembered when your presence began to matter more than they wanted to admit. They remembered the first moment they realized they could lose you. And then they remembered the choice they made when fear became stronger than courage. This is the part that may surprise you. They once believed that walking away would protect them. They thought distance would help them regain control. They assumed time would weaken the connection until it became just another memory. But instead, time exposed the difference between peace and emotional numbness. It showed them that control without connection feels empty. It taught them that avoiding vulnerability may prevent pain for a moment, but it can also prevent the love the heart was asking to receive. Your soulmate is now standing before a truth they can no longer dismiss. They may have misunderstood you. They are beginning to recognize that some of the things they interpreted as pressure were actually your desire for clarity. Some of what they called intensity was emotional honesty. Some of what they viewed as conflict was your attempt to protect a connection that mattered to you. They now see that you were not asking them to become someone else. You were asking them to meet you without masks. And they were not ready. But readiness can change. The person they were then is not exactly the person they are becoming now. Life has humbled them in certain places. Experiences have revealed who truly stands beside them and who disappears when things become difficult. They have learned that attention is not the same as devotion, attraction is not the same as understanding, and temporary excitement cannot replace emotional safety. Your absence became a teacher. Without intending to, you showed them the value of your presence by no longer carrying the entire connection alone. When you became quiet, stepped back, or stopped trying to prove what your heart already knew, they were forced to confront the space you once filled. And in that space, they noticed how much of their emotional world had been connected to you. They miss more than your attention. They miss who they were when they felt safe with you. They miss the softness they allowed themselves to feel. They miss the hope that quietly entered their life when you were near. They miss the possibility that perhaps someone could love them without needing them to perform. They miss the version of the future they once imagined but were too frightened to name. This is why they cannot hold it in much longer. The pressure is not coming from you. It is coming from within them. They are tired of pretending. They are tired of creating explanations that no longer convince even themselves. They are tired of acting unaffected when something reminds them of you. They are tired of wondering what would happen if they reached out, only to stop themselves at the final moment. And most of all, they are tired of living with the possibility that their silence could eventually become permanent regret. There is a sentence they have been carrying. They have imagined saying it to you many times. Sometimes the sentence begins with an apology. Sometimes it begins with your name. Sometimes it begins with, "I need to tell you the truth." But no matter how they rehearse it, the meaning remains the same. They want you to know that their feelings never disappeared in the way they pretended they did. Yet that is not the most shocking part. The most shocking part is what they have finally decided about those feelings. They no longer want to simply acknowledge them in private. They are beginning to consider action. Something has shifted from reflection into intention. They are thinking about how to approach you, what to say, and whether there is still a door open between you. They understand that they cannot return with vague words or temporary emotion. They know that if they step forward, they must do so with honesty. And this terrifies them. Because honesty means admitting that they were wrong. It means admitting that pride influenced their choices. It means revealing how often they thought of you after pretending to move on. It means telling you about the moments when they almost reached out. It means confessing that they noticed your strength from a distance and wondered whether you had finally stopped waiting for them. They are afraid you may no longer see them the same way. They are afraid that the silence they created may have changed your heart. They are afraid that you learn to live without the answers they refuse to give. They are afraid that someone else may now recognize what they failed to value. But there is another fear beneath all of these. They are afraid that you still love them. This may sound strange, but your love has always carried responsibility. To be truly loved by you means they can no longer hide behind confusion. It means they must choose whether to show up fully or step away completely. They know your heart has endured enough uncertainty. They know that returning without sincerity would wound you again. So they are not only asking themselves whether they miss you. They are asking whether they are finally prepared to become consistent. That question is changing them. Recently, they made a private promise. No one around them may know about it. You may see no evidence of it yet. But within themselves, they decided that if they receive one clear opportunity to speak honestly, they will not waste it. They will say what they should have said before. They will reveal what fear once buried. They will stop pretending that the connection was meaningless. Still, heaven asks you not to surrender your peace to expectation. This message is not asking you to chase them, wait in pain, or place your life on hold. Your journey has never depended on another person's timing. The love meant for you must meet you with truth, respect, and emotional responsibility. You are not being called to return to old patterns. You are being prepared to recognize the difference between words born from temporary loneliness and words supported by genuine transformation. Your soulmate knows this, even if they cannot yet explain it. They sense that you have changed. They can feel that the version of you who once accepted confusion may no longer exist. They understand that something stronger has awakened within you. You have learned to listen to actions. You have learned not to abandon yourself while waiting for someone else to choose courage. And this strength is part of what is drawing them toward honesty. They are not only afraid of losing you. They are afraid they already lost the version of you who would have welcomed them without questions. That realization is forcing them to grow. They know they may have to earn trust instead of expecting it. They know they cannot simply return and act as though the silence never happened. They know your heart deserves acknowledgement for everything it carried. And there is something they want to explain, something about the moment they withdrew that you never fully understood. You may have believed they left because their feelings changed. But the truth is more complicated. Their feelings became stronger at the very moment they pulled away. That intensity frightened them. It exposed how much power the connection had over their emotional world. They feared needing you. They feared losing control. They feared that if they allowed themselves to love you completely, you would become the one person capable of hurting them deeply. So they created distance before you could. They rejected the possibility before the possibility could reject them. But what they did not understand was that self-protection can create the very pain it is trying to avoid. By stepping away, they hurt both you and themselves. And now they are finally seeing the pattern clearly. This is why their confession will not be simple. It carries regret. It carries love. It carries fear. And it carries a truth about what happened after the distance began. There was a moment when they almost came back. You may not know this. There may have been no message, no call, and no visible sign. But they came close. They opened your conversation. They looked at your name. They began writing. Their heart was pounding because they knew that one message could change everything. They typed more than you would expect. They admitted they missed you. They admitted they had been thinking about the way things ended. They admitted that they still felt a connection they could not explain. For a few moments, every wall fell away. Then something stopped them. It was not another person. It was not a lack of love. It was something they saw. Something connected to you made them believe that reaching out might cause more harm than healing. Perhaps they misunderstood a post, a message, a photograph, a conversation, or a change in your behavior. They convinced themselves that you had moved on, that you were happier without them, or that their return would be unwelcome. So they deleted everything. But the words did not disappear from their heart. And now those same words are returning with even greater force. Your soulmate has reached a point where silence feels more dangerous than honesty. They can sense that time is moving. They know opportunities do not remain open forever. They know that if they continue hiding, they may one day watch your life move in a direction that no longer includes them. This possibility has shaken them. They recently imagined hearing that you had chosen someone else. The thought affected them more deeply than they expected. It brought a wave of emotion they could not rationalize away. For the first time, they understood that losing access to you permanently would not feel like losing a possibility. It would feel like losing a part of the future they secretly hoped might still exist. That was the moment they stopped lying to themselves. But there is one final layer you must hear before this part ends. Your soulmate is not only preparing to reveal their feelings. They are preparing to reveal a secret decision they made concerning you. This decision was not made casually. It came after nights of reflection, after a conversation that forced them to face themselves, and after an unexpected event made them realize how little time people sometimes have to say what truly matters. They decided that they would no longer allow fear to write the ending of this connection. But before they can approach you, there is something they believe they must do first. It involves a person who influenced their silence. Someone once gave them advice about you. Advice they trusted when they should have listened to their own heart. That advice changed the way they interpreted your actions. It planted doubt. It made them question your intentions. And now your soulmate has discovered that the person who advised them may not have been telling the complete truth. A conversation is about to happen. Your soulmate wants answers. They want to know why certain things were said, what was hidden from them, and whether their decision to distance themselves was shaped by information that was never accurate. The closer they come to uncovering this truth, the more emotional they become, because they are beginning to realize that the connection may have been interrupted by a misunderstanding that should never have existed. And what they found most recently has left them shaken. There is evidence, something they saw or heard. That suggests you were protecting the connection during a time when they believed you were working against it. You may have made a sacrifice they never knew about. You may have remained silent to protect them from conflict. You may have carried blame for something that was not entirely yours.